WWE has reportedly reached out to an AEW wrestler. We're going to talk all about that in just a little bit. We got a couple other news topics. Of course, the timestamps in the description. We're going to kick things off talking about WWE's tag team division. Kevin Owens had an amazing segment on WWE Raw. It was followed up with an incredible match against Drew McIntyre. And of course, all of this stemmed from Kevin Owens wanting an opportunity to become a champion. And, well, to be honest with you, it looks like WWE's championship picture is very, very crowded. Between the IC title, the US title, and the World Championship, there's just so many guys who could become a champion at this point. It doesn't make a lot of sense for Kevin Owens to go after a singles title. Now, what was really interesting is recently Kevin Owens was on the TWC show, and he was speaking about possibly reuniting with Sami Zayn to go after the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championship belts. And honestly, I love this idea. The Usos need some new and fresh competitors, and we saw WWE introduce Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander as a tag team on WWE Raw. And then, of course, we got a ton of NXT talent who could eventually get called up. But I think it's really necessary that whoever beats the Usos will be a significant win. And yes, there are a ton of teams on the main roster who have yet to touch gold, but I think the most intriguing perspective that I could bring you guys is bringing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn together, whether this happens after the draft, whether this happens before the draft. However we get there, I really don't care. It is just something I absolutely want to see. Kevin Owens has yet to win the tag team championship belts in WWE, and what better teammate would there be? Like, there's nobody, guys, there is nobody better than Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens together. They have the history, they've had their singles matches, but now to see them tag team on WWE and become tag team champions would be a very good and smart decision by WWE. And honestly, I look forward to seeing what WWE does here. The Usos dropping those belts seems like it's going to be happening this year. At least I hope. I feel like WWE is trying to get this tag team division going again, and the best way by doing that is offering fresh matchups. Slice Wrestling came out with a very interesting report in regards to CORA JADE. This is one that excites me. We have talked very highly about Roxanne Perez and CORA JADE on WWE NXT 2.0, and it appears that WWE officials are ready to put the rocket strap on CORA JADE. This new report from Slice Wrestling basically came out today indicating that WWE is very high on CORA JADE. They are looking at giving her an NXT Women's Championship reign. Triple H and Shawn Michaels both are reportedly very high on CORA JADE, and this isn't shocking by any means. Triple H is one person who likes to compare CORA JADE to Paige. At least this is according to the report. And I see a lot of the similarities. I also see a lot of similarities between Roxanne Perez and AJ Lee, which is really cool. I talked about this before. Plana Productions did an incredible video on comparing some of the new talent in WWE to some of the old talent in WWE, and there's a lot of comparisons, but I really do like the idea of CORA JADE being compared to, of course, Paige. I also like the comparison to Lita as well. And with WWE getting ready to push CORA JADE on NXT, I think this is a great way to see what the reaction will be from the WWE universe. I think if fans are really receptive to her and she ends up having a great championship reign, then I think without a doubt CORA JADE will be a very big success on the WWE main roster. And I look at the women's division in NXT and I see a lot of potential, which is great. I think WWE needs to continue developing some of the talent. There's no need to necessarily rush just yet. There's a lot of people coming back to WWE. There's a lot of things happening on the main roster. So the idea that WWE isn't necessarily rushing anything is really good in my opinion. I also really want to make it very clear that if CORA JADE does become NXT Women's Champion, this is not a spoiler in regards to Zoe Stark or Mandy Rose. There is a ton of belief that Zoe Stark could actually win the women's championship, and then she'll need another heel to eventually take the belt from her, and that could very well be CORA JADE. I look forward to seeing what happens here. I want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. And now it is time to get to a very interesting story. This is going to be a little bit longer, but trust me, you guys are going to want to listen in. So WWE reportedly reached out to an AEW talent in regards to come to WWE, and this came from Fightful Select. I thought this was a very interesting report. So basically, a source close to AEW told Fightful Select that a notable AEW talent under contract with the promotion reported to AEW management that WWE had reached out to them about coming to WWE. Now, this talent specifically made it very clear to WWE that they are happy with AEW and that they wanted the higher-ups to know about this, so that way they did actually go to the AEW management. The talent in question also added that they had zero desire to leave AEW, and the claim was that a member of WWE's talent relations department contacted the wrestler, and a source indicated that they referred the call to the talent's representation instead of speaking directly. This is a very crazy situation. I see a lot of people on social media talking about contract tampering and all that stuff. Look, I am not an expert within that range. I do not know anything about that stuff. I'm not going to act like I do. I don't know how it necessarily works. I know, it's a very chaotic and complicated situation, but the idea of WWE reaching out to an AEW talent is not necessarily shocking to me. Now, one thing I really, really want to add, and it's really the main emphasis that I want to put here, is that I truly believe WWE and AEW should actually do a talent exchange. And I'm not talking about a scenario in which an AEW talent stays contracted to AEW and goes and works for WWE. I want to see WWE and AEW make a trade. This happens in every sports organization, in the NBA, NFL, MLB, and I get it. They are very different. It's not a very fair apples-to-apples comparison. However, we see trades happen in other sports. And really interestingly enough, the UFC and rival promotion One Championship FC actually had a very interesting trade, because the UFC traded the contract of Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse, to One FC for Ben Askren. And you guys know that that was a very big shock. And of course, it was a very weird thing because those are competitors. And if that can happen in the world of MMA, I believe it can happen in the world of pro wrestling. Now, here is the thing. When you watch the NBA, NFL, MLS, whatever it may be, whenever there's a trade or a transfer of talent, typically there's a lot of guidelines within the contracts and stuff like that. Because WWE and AEW have never done a trade before, I don't know what the kind of guidelines or expectations would be here. Plus, you got to get the talent to agree. Plus, you got to get both companies to agree. Plus, the finances of both contracts could be very different from each other. So there is a lot of reasons as to why this wouldn't work. But I do think the idea of WWE and AEW doing a trade could be a really good thing if talent don't want to stay in AEW and if talent don't want to stay in WWE. Now, in this specific case, the wrestler that we are talking about seems to be pretty happy with AEW. Now, who can that talent be? And honestly, I really don't know. There's a lot of guesses you can make, but the idea is that WWE is interested in somebody from AEW, and as of right now, this person doesn't reportedly have interest in going back. Or did they just do the politically correct thing? Obviously, having them contact the agent and whatnot. There's a lot of variables in this, but let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like the idea of AEW and WWE doing a trade? I want to hear your opinions down below. Thank you for watching.